All right, today we are tackling one of the biggest mysteries out there. Where does the mind even come from? We're basically opening a cold case that's 600 million years old, a detective story to find the very first stirrings of consciousness in the animal kingdom. And our investigation? It starts at the very dawn of animal life.
For centuries we've wrestled with this, right? Is the mind really some kind of ethereal, separate thing? A soul maybe, a ghost in the machine? Or is the answer rooted in something much more practical, something based in the brutal realities of survival? That's the central question we're digging into.
So here's the theory we're putting to the test today, that what we call the mind isn't some mystical add-on at all. It is in fact just a very advanced survival kit. The idea is that it's an emergent property of purely physical protective mechanisms that evolve for one, and only one, reason: to keep an organism alive enough to pass on its genes.
To find our first clues, we have to become time travelers. We're going way, way back, long before brains as we know them even existed, to witness the very invention of action itself.
Okay, our first stop is this huge evolutionary leap between two really ancient animal groups. On one side, you've got sponges, and on the other, they're much more dynamic cousins, the cnidarians. Think jellyfish, corals, and anemones. The difference between these two marks one of the most important moments in the entire history of life on Earth.
Just look at the contrast here. It's stark. On one side, the sponge is basically a silent pump, just passively filtering water. It doesn't have any muscles, no nerves. But a cnidarian, it's an active agent. It has both muscles and a nervous system, and that lets it perform coordinated actions, like grabbing things with its tentacles. This was the invention of action on a grand multicellular scale.
And this ability, this large-scale muscular action to reach, to grasp, to move with purpose, was totally transformative. It is without a doubt a powerful protective mechanism for survival. So, based on this first piece of evidence, our survival kit theory is looking pretty strong.
But this new ability to act was really just the beginning. See, the world was about to enter a new, much more dangerous era, sparking an evolutionary arms race that would change the rules of life forever.
This timeline shows this incredibly dramatic shift. Before about 540 million years ago, during what's called the Ediacaran period, life was slow, it was passive. But then, bam, the Cambrian explosion happened. Animal life just rapidly diversified, and for the very first time, active predation became a major evolutionary force. This kicked off a biological arms race of staggering proportions, driving the evolution of better perception and faster action.
Just look at this. This is a reconstruction of the world before that arms race. It's quiet, it's slow-moving. This is the world that was about to be turned completely upside down by the dawn of predators and the desperate need to escape them.
Now, to survive in this new, dangerous world, animals needed more than just movement. They needed what the philosopher Peter Godfrey-Smith calls agency. And this isn't just about reacting to stuff. It's about initiating action. It's that feeling of by-me-ness in an action, the sense of being its source.
And at first glance, yeah, agency fits perfectly into our survival kit theory. I mean, being an agent, being able to do things, clearly helps you survive. But this is where our investigation takes a sharp turn, where the case gets really complicated. Does being the source of an action mean something deeper is going on, something more profound than just a simple reflex?
And that question, it forces us to look beyond the simple mechanics of survival and to start considering a much deeper truth, the evolution of a subject's point of view.
This chart lays out the crucial distinction. You've got agency on the left. That's the active side, the by-me-ness of doing something. But Godfrey-Smith pairs this with its profound counterpart, subjectivity. This is the sensory side, the for-me-ness of experience. It's not about doing, it's about feeling and how the world seems to you. It's about having a point of view. So here's the crucial point. Evolution didn't just produce animal machines that acted, it produced subjects, integrated cells that have a perspective on the world, a world they feel themselves to be physically present in.
And Godfrey-Smith just puts the central mystery perfectly with this question. I mean, it's one thing to build a robot that avoids danger. It's another thing entirely to explain how, and maybe more importantly why, that robot would come to feel like it's part of the scene.
So, with all this new evidence on the table, it's time for the verdict on our initial theory.
And the verdict is this. The theory that the mind is just a protective mechanism, a survival kit, is an absolutely vital piece of the puzzle.
It explains the intense evolutionary pressure that gave rise to minds. It explains the why, but it's incomplete. It cannot by itself explain what it's like to have one, that subjective experience of being a self in the world.
So, how did it happen? Well, biologists and philosophers think it wasn't a single lights-on moment. It was a gradual dawn. As that evolutionary arms race got more intense, a crucial new tool emerged, an inner model that could distinguish between what I did and what happened to me. And this ability, this power to separate sensations you cause yourself from sensations the world causes, well, for many, that is the very seed of a self.
The great philosopher William James was urging us to think this way over a century ago. He argued that consciousness couldn't have just burst into existence from nothing. No, it had to evolve continuously from everything that came before it.
And this is what that process looks like. The story of the mind isn't some single point on this evolutionary tree. It's a story that is written across its many, many branches. A slow, continuous process of becoming that has unfolded over more than 600 million years.
Which, of course, leaves us with one final fascinating question. If the birth of the mind was a gradual dawn rather than the flick of a switch, where along this vast, ancient tree of life does the first glimmer of light truly begin? That remains one of science's greatest unsolved cases.